A Tale of Two Colleges. As you can see, I've transformed the title into a question as we did in an earlier slide. So my question now is, how can similar students get different college graduation results? As the college admission letters start to trickle in, young adults across the country are facing one of the largest investment choices of their lives: where to go to college. Identifying the right institution could mean a lifetime of higher earnings and more stability and more opportunity in the labor market. But attending the wrong institution might reduce the odds of graduating and leave students with unimaginable loan debt. I underlined attending to loan debt because I think this is the author's claim. I think this is the topic that the argument that the author is going to try to prove, and so I highlight it and I underline it. That's why it's important to consider outcomes, and not just broad outcomes like overall or average graduation rates, but specific outcomes that show prospective students how well or terrible universities serve students like them. Although colleges may appear similar in demographic or course offering, they can produce drastically different results for students who receive Pell Grants, a proxy for low income status, or for students of different races. In a forthcoming report, a look at Black student success, identifying top and bottom performing institutions, we will provide lists of four-year institutions that serve Black students well and some that don't. In addition, we will provide several examples of institutions that seem similar but have very different graduation rates for Black students. So I'm going to pause here because I highlighted this section. Although colleges may appear similar in demographics or course offerings, they can produce drastically different results for students who receive Pell Grants. I highlighted this because going back to what I think is the claim that attending the wrong institution will reduce your odds of graduating, I think this is an example. So if students receive Pell Grants, it's saying that they get different results when it comes to graduation. And so that is a piece of support for this topic of choosing the wrong college. And for a student who gets a Pell Grant, there are colleges that are right for them and seemingly colleges that are wrong for them. So that is a piece of evidence that I'm going to pull out to support the claim that I believe the author is trying to make. Take, for example, George Mason University in Virginia and the University of Kansas, both large public research universities. Both admit freshmen and admission scores near the top quartile of students nationwide. They enroll similar numbers of undergraduates, about 20,000, and comparable percentages of freshmen receiving Pell dollars. 25.2% for George Mason and 22.8% for Kansas. They also post overall graduation rates above 60%. On paper, they appear quite similar, right? But the Black students that attend these institutions have very different chances of completing a degree in 6 years. Highlighted this as well, because what I'm learning from this paragraph in this comparison of George Mason and the University of Kansas is that they both have graduation rates above 60%. So that looks great on paper. And they both accept around the same amount of students with Pell Grants. So one is 25.2, the other is 22.8. That's pretty close. But the author tells me that the Black students have a different chance of completing their degree. So I highlighted that because I think that is another piece of evidence that supports what I believe is the author's claim that attending the wrong institution might reduce the odds of graduating and leave students with unimaginable loan debt. Because those students who don't graduate still have to pay for it. And so here we have students in Kansas who have the same demographic, they're similar students, but their chances of graduating in 6 years, very different. And if they don't graduate, still got that loan debt. All right, so now I get down and I've already previewed the chart, but now it's making so much more sense to me because I can see that George Mason is on the left, Kansas is on the right. As I said, both of them have over 60% graduation rates. But then when we break it down, that number is not the same. So the blue represents the Black students. And so George Mason, it's pretty close that the Black students are graduating at the same rate.